Okay, well, I've just arrived at Childers Cove. Now, I was here a couple of days ago and I scouted the place out. Now, to be honest, the weather forecast is very poor for tonight, but I'm looking now and there's definitely some breaks in the clouds. So I think what I'm going to shoot here is panos, because I think this will lend itself best to that, because I need to get the Milky Way core above the head out there, above the water. So I'll probably shoot a number of different compositions. I'll shoot for the ground, longer exposures so that I can get more exposure, because it's completely black. There is no moon, not for hours yet. And then I'll shoot shorter exposures for the sky, blend two separate panos in together. That's my plan. But of course, the best laid plans always come astray when the weather doesn't behave itself. So I'll see what I can get. Let's get down there. Well, here we are down at Childers Cove, and to be honest, I have been busy taking images for probably a couple of hours now, because when I first got here, the stars suddenly came out and I didn't have time to go through any of the recording of capturing anything like that. But I was constantly taking photos, two cameras, and I'm taking a whole heap of panos, stacked shots. I went down on the beach, got my feet wet, tried to get some rocks and things like that down there. It was not easy, by the way, because the water it caught me unsuspecting there a few times. But what an absolutely magic night this is down at Childers Cove. I cannot believe that we had so much Milky Way, so many stars in the sky. It was absolutely awesome. It just goes to show, sometimes you've just got to come out, no matter what the weather forecast says. This is mesmerizing. It is absolutely stunning here. Well, here we are down at ground level, or sea level, I should say. I'll tell you what, I'm keeping an eye on those waves. They're quite unpredictable at times. Now, one thing I probably haven't mentioned yet, because it's only just happened, is that I've actually bought or added another camera to my arsenal of cameras, and it's actually the camera that is recording this video right now. I've actually decided to add a Sony a7S III to my video stable. Now, of course, this camera is awesome in low light, and that's why I'm using it here, and that's why I've used it for the first time on this particular trip. Now, it's pretty much going to be replacing my Panasonic G9, which I've been using for quite a number of years, and there's a number of reasons. I'll go through it later, but I just wanted you to know, because that's the other camera I was shooting stills with here, as well as video. So this thing is absolutely amazing. It sees in the dark, and the still images that I was able to shoot with this camera along with the Nikon Z6. It's going to be interesting. I will do a video to compare these two cameras because I've got the 20mm f1.8 Sony lens as well as the 20mm f1.8 Nikon Z mount lens, and I think that could well be a really good comparison. But I'm down at ground level here. Oh gee, it's nice down here. It's not so windy tonight, which is another great advantage. Now, I'm not 100% sure you're going to be able to see the water behind me there, but there it is. And I'll just put my head torch on it. It's pretty potent, I can tell you. I've got my boots full of water twice already tonight, just by coming down here and going a little bit too close. You can see it coming up a little bit close now. So, as I've said to you before, I'm not used to the ocean, I'm not used to the sea, and so I've got to be careful, and I am very careful. So I did, however, take some images over on some rocks over there with the Sony camera, and oh gee, it looks good. It was funny because the tripod was in the sand and suddenly the water comes up under the tripod legs, and I'm thinking, oh, is it going to sink down or whatever, because you know what tripods are like on sand. But anyway, I think those shots look pretty good, and I didn't take much else down here at ground level or sea level because I'm a little bit worried about the water, and I think the view from up above, up on that staircase, looks better. But those panoramas, oh look, they are just awesome. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do is bring you back here tomorrow during the daytime, because then you'll be able to see what it looks like down here. It is beautiful, and I'll take you around. Hopefully it won't be pouring rain or something like that, and I'll explain my compositions and how I went about doing it in the daylight. So I think that's a good idea. I'll tell you what, I'm off for a cup of tea because I am absolutely starving. Okay, well here we are the next day back at Childers Cove, and I can tell you I've woken up to a really poor weather forecast today. So it's looking like the weather's closing in. So I raced down here because I wanted to get here before the rain comes. It's supposed to be thunder and lightning and all sorts of things later on today, and the whole state of Victoria is going to be covered in rain. So I'm here before that, so let's go down and I'll go through what we did last night. Oh, and by the way, today I brought my raincoat. So if it does rain, hopefully I'm going to be covered. Wow, just have a look at that. This is the absolutely awesome Childers Cove. And last night, this is where I was, just up here on this boardwalk, taking quite a few images. And I took a selfie just here last night, and oh man, even with the drizzly rain, it looks awesome again today. I think, yeah, I don't know where the tide's at, so it looks pretty similar to what it did last night when I was here. When I first got here, I had little expectation, to be honest. So I got my Nikon Z6 with the 20mm f1.8 lens on and set up right on the edge of this boardwalk down here. Now, right up front, I remember thinking to myself, oh, well, I've got a bit of time because the clouds were covering the Milky Way and the stars. And then all of a sudden the clouds just parted. And so I had this amazing experience. I could see the stars and I thought, I've got to go for it. So the first thing I did, I set up, I think it was about 18 to 20 or 25, I don't know, I lost count because I just was going snap, snap, snap shots of a panorama. So I set my camera into a portrait orientation and started over here. And by the way, there was a nice glow on that horizon, and that's from the town of Warrnambool, which is a fair way away down there. And just went around like so, and I did 3 rows. So it's probably closer to, I don't know, closer to 30 shots I would have taken for that initial pano. So I set that at f2.2, 15-second shutter speeds at ISO 6400. Now they're pretty much my standard settings. But then I did some long exposure foregrounds. So the idea of the long exposure foregrounds was to get more detail out of these rock faces. Now there was no moonlight, there was no light of any sort, except a little bit of a glow from that over the hill over there from Warrnambool. But so what I did, I left my settings the same, f2.2. I changed my ISO to 3200 and I shot for 60-second exposures. So 1 minute shots, and I did that bottom row again. And the idea of that is so I can get more detail out of this foreground and the water and the sand and everything down below. And in the end, I just love this shot. Now, as I mentioned to you last night, I was also shooting with my Sony a7S III. So what I did a few similar compositions with that camera up here on the boardwalk, facing right around, so sweeping panoramas. And I was really pleased. That camera, it's different. It just gives a different feel about the images. It really gives you the impression that it can actually literally see in the dark. Now, as for the settings on the Sony, I used pretty much the same settings. I mean, I had the 20mm f1.8 lens, but I did tend to shoot that lens wide open at f1.8 quite a bit. And I guess I was drawn in by the absolutely brilliant light gathering power in live view on the screen. I mean, just looking at that screen, you can see the landscape quite easily, which I'm not used to with my Z6 or any other camera that I've ever used. But I shot it mainly at f1.8. There's a few times I stopped it down to f2.2, and yeah, some of those images I think will look absolutely awesome. Now, if you look down here, you'll see a collection of awesome rocks with this green, I don't know, green mossy stuff all over them. And I thought I'd try to get some shots with the rocks down here. Now, that was the first time I got my boots filled with water, because I went down there and it was a bit like today, not much water coming up here. Set my camera up, had the Milky Way coming down between the heads over here, and suddenly the waters came in. And it's a bit surreal, because a bit like it just did then. So it's coming all the way up here, but in all the time I'd been here, I'd never seen the water coming that far. So I got caught, but that's what happens. But the shot, I think I still got the shot. Well, as you can see, it's almost happening again. The water's coming in a long way further than it did when I first walked down there. So one thing I've learnt on this trip is that you always keep your eye on the water no matter what else you're doing. So there's obviously no doubt that this is an absolutely epic location. And I was so fortunate to be here last night when the clouds cleared away. Now, there were still some clouds in the sky, but you know, it was probably, and it wasn't predicted, but it was probably those higher level clouds that I actually like. Because over there in the northwestern sky, where Warrnambool, the town is, it was glowing up those clouds that were higher up in the atmosphere, and that stretched around to where the Milky Way was as well. But as I've mentioned to you in previous videos, I don't mind a little bit of high level cloud, even across the core, because it can add some sort of mystical dimension to the images. And I think that's the case here as well. You know, people say to me all the time, what is it about nightscape photography that you love so much? And you're going to laugh at me here, but part of what I love so much about nightscape photography is actually this, where I come back during the daytime and see it for what it really is. I mean, just have a look at that. Isn't this just a beautiful spot? Now, I couldn't see it as well as this last night. The camera does. And when I process these images, I'll be so rapt, I'll relive each of those moments. But right here now, my senses are fully engaged and I can see everything around me clearly. And because of the water, I guess there's that further sense of engagement. Whoa, here we go. Oh, about that far from me. Oh, that is just beautiful. I love it here. This is just a beautiful place. Okay, now I know a lot of you want to know how do you know where the Milky Way is going to be in a situation like this? So, well, one method is to use your phone PhotoPills app. So, as you can see here, I'll just scroll around to the time it is. So currently it's daytime. And there we go. You can see, as I pan around there, you can see the Milky Way core starting over here and going right across the sky over to there. And that's exactly what I saw here last night. Now, I didn't need PhotoPills last night because I could just look up and I could see it. But when I'm here in the daytime like this, that's fantastic because it gives you that visualization, as you can see, to see exactly where it's going to be in relation to the landscape. And that is what we need. And so there you have it. This is Childers Cove, an amazing place to come visit if you're ever traveling along the Great Ocean Road in southern Victoria. And that's the end of this episode. Look, I appreciate you following me along on my journey around these places. Actually, the sun's poked out, so who knows what the weather's doing today. I'll find out, I suppose. But look, I appreciate you watching. I'd love you to comment down below. Give me a thumbs up if you feel led to. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, I have a lot of content which is similar to this, maybe less disjointed than this. But when I'm on the road, these things happen. You know, sometimes my brain goes funny and I can't sort of think straight. I've got to come back again and put my thoughts together. And that's what we've done today. So thanks so much. I'll look forward to seeing you next time somewhere out under the stars. You have a fantastic week.